Satya, Mind, Body, Spirit, Health, and Healing. This TMS talk comes from the 2B Magnetic Podcast. It's a conversation between Dr. Gabor Mate and the host, Lacey Phillips. If chronic pain and illness had a personality type, it does. Gabor just about nails it in this segment. As you work to integrate knowledge of the mind-body connection into your awareness, having a thorough understanding of these personality characteristics or behavioral tendencies and how they lead us into chronic pain and illness is crucial. The only one I might add is perfectionism. But anyways, let's enjoy this talk from our wise elder, Dr. Mate. I'll add a link to the original podcast in the description.
Furthermore, for everybody listening and their interest is really perked now who may be suffering, talk about the personality traits you've noticed the most in people with chronic illness, that it's very socially acceptable traits.
Well, not only acceptable, but even considered admirable, which is a real tragedy, actually. So in my medical work as a family physician, working with people with all manner of conditions, and also in palliative care as director of a palliative care unit here in Vancouver, working with dying people, I noticed there were certain traits that kept repeating themselves like a pattern in people with chronic illness, and they included, saliently, the automatic and kind of compulsive concern for the emotional needs of others while ignoring your own. So I give the example of a real story of a woman who's diagnosed with breast cancer, and her first thought is, how will I support my husband through this? So that's the first trait, this automatic concern for the needs of others, ignoring your own. The second one is identification with duty, role, and responsibility. Now, people that do that are glorified in our society, but they very often do it at the expense of ignoring their own needs and their own body signals. So rigid identification with duty, role, and responsibility. That's the second, sort of a multitasking, I can do everything for everybody ethic. That's the second. The third is key here, which is the repression of healthy anger. Now, we have a circuit in our brain for anger. It's a good thing. You try and walk into an animal's territory, you want to see what healthy anger looks like? You'll see it. Healthy anger says, you're in my space, get out. Now, in early childhood, when the parents don't know how to handle the child's anger, the child gets the message that if I'm angry, good kids don't get angry. The message is angry kids don't get loved. The child's desperate to be loved, so they'll automatically, unwittingly and unconsciously repress their anger. That repression of emotion is the most constant trait in people that I've seen with Crohn's, colitis, ALS, multiple sclerosis, autoimmune disease of all kinds, rheumatoid arthritis, and so on. So that's the third characteristic. The fourth personality trait, and I have to also put in parentheses here, I'm not talking about inborn character traits. Nobody's born with these. These are personality traits that we develop in response to our environment. They come along as coping mechanisms, but then they cause trouble later on. And the fourth of them is a belief that you're responsible for other people feel and that you must never disappoint anybody. Now, these traits together impose tremendous stress on the organism, and because of the mind-body unity that you mentioned, they also have an impact on the body's immune system, hormonal apparatus, nervous system, in other words, our entire physiology. So, again, we're not blaming anybody for being ill. Nobody chooses to be that way. These are all developed as coping patterns to help the child fit in with their environment, because the environment didn't accept them for who they were, so they had to make themselves acceptable by developing these traits. These traits will lead you into illness.
Boy, how many of those I identify with?
This content has been created with the sole intent of educating about, increasing awareness around, and deepening the understanding of the mind-body syndrome, and more broadly speaking, the mind-body-spirit connection. To hear this clip in its full context, please visit the original media source. And to learn more about the mind-body-spirit connection, you can visit howtosayfupolitely.com. Until next time, love your struggle and remain free.